Hello all and welcome. I wanted to do a fall reading recap. This year has been my worst reading year in the last 4 years. I am just not reading as much as I used to, and I need to get re-inspired and re-fall in love with reading again. And I'm hoping that this will open that back up for me. So let's talk about the books that I've been reading this fall and spooky season. I started off the fall and spooky season by rereading the Devil's Night series by Penelope Douglas. The Devil's Night series is a dark romance. I don't know what it's called when each book is a different main character and a different love interest, but they're all interconnected. Maybe that's what it is, an interconnected series. I stumbled upon Devil's Night back in 2022 when I first started reading, and it completely blew my mind in the worst and best way. It's a complete roller coaster if you've never read them. That being said, this is my third reread of the series. I talked about this on my TikTok, but something I'm learning is rereading something 3 times is maybe not the method. When you reread something for the second time, your first reread of things, you really can appreciate and pick up everything that you missed and take your time. On a third reread, it gets so rough. At this point, I'm picking it apart. I'm finding all these little plot holes and details and things that I'm not loving. And the Devil's Night series is not a perfect series to begin with. There's a lot of issues there. It's just so much fun. It has the perfect fall and spooky vibes, all of that stuff. It's these 4 jocks that are also super uber mega rich millionaires. There are so many tropes packed into it. It seriously is such a solid dark romance, especially if you're getting into it. It's a good beginner's dark romance. It's not too crazy. Another thing I'm doing on this reread is just skipping the novellas. There are 2 novellas in the Devil's Night series, so there's 4 books, 2 novellas, 6 in total. And I'm just skipping them because I really didn't love them when I read them the first and second time, and it kind of just hinders me. So I'm just moving right along. I will say my favorite in the Devil's Night is always up in the air, but I think it consistently is the 3rd book, which is Kill Switch. These books are all dual timeline and dual POV. Each of these couples have a connection that they had when they were children or in high school, and then one later in life when they're adults, the present day. Kill Switch is the one that I think perfectly has all 3 and this really forbidden love thing, and also it's the kind of the villain of the series is the main character in the 3rd book, so it's really fun. I find that that's always my favorite in these types of series. These were, like I said, some of the first books that I read in 2022, so I rated them all pretty high. The first book I only gave 3 stars. It is the worst of the series. As far as dark romance, as far as series, as far as just a quick popcorn read, they are so fun and so good for this time of year. If you haven't dove in, I definitely say do it. And I'm just on this last book, and the last book, it's there are so many loose ends that need to get tied up, and instead of just focusing on tying up all those loose ends, a whole new plot is entered and all of these new characters, and you're girl, we don't have time for this. We've got to get a move on. It's definitely a love-hate. What I want to do one day is those plot summaries. I would love to do a full plot summary and breakdown of the entire Devil's Night series because it truly is so crazy. If TV producers are ever looking to just have an easy teenage drama romance that is spicy, sensual, gonna get the crowd going like a Vampire Diaries vibe, they need to look no further than the Devil's Night series by Penelope Douglas. It's so perfect and so ridiculous in a way that would make for such excellent TV. I would pay really good money to see this get made. I would fund some of it myself, honestly, if I could. Then I read The Surrogate Mother by Freida McFadden. I am just such a sucker for when book spines are cool. And Target had a special edition of The Surrogate Mother where the spine was red. I unfortunately don't have it. All my books are packed up. I can't show it to you, but that was why I bought it. I'm not really a huge Freida McFadden fan. I read a couple of her books and they're those classic, just trashy thrillers. This was exactly that. I think it was about, my memory is so foggy and it wasn't that memorable to begin with anyway. It's this couple who are having a hard time conceiving, and so they are looking to get a surrogate mother, and of course this surrogate mother comes along that's too good to be true. And then weird things start happening and unfolding from there. I think I read it in 2 days. It was a super fast read. It was pretty short too. Just gets the job done. I love reading thrillers. I love this kind of mindless reset. So it was nice. I read it between my Devil's Night readings as a palate cleanser. By the way, all of these are interspersed with my Devil's Night. I kind of have read one after every single book I'm going to talk about. But yeah, so The Surrogate Mother by Freida McFadden. What did I rate it? It looks like I gave it a 2-star. I would say it could be anywhere from a 2 to a 3. It's definitely in that range. No more than 3, and 3 would be very generous. The job done. If you need something to take on vacation, something that's just gonna pull you out of a slump and be a quick read, it was fine. Then I read We Used to Live Here by Kliewer. So I had heard so much buzz about this book. I was seeing people compare it to House of Leaves, which I haven't read, but I know all about and I want to get into it. So much hype around We Used to Live Here, which is crazy too, because it didn't even come out this year. I think it came out last year, maybe a couple years ago. And I was just so curious because I was seeing people talk about how terrifying it was, how the twists and turns they just like never saw coming. And I think it's getting adapted as well, or did and it didn't get picked up. Regardless, whatever. I picked this book, unfortunately, for my book club that I have with my friends. And I say unfortunately because this book is about a couple who moves into a house that they're planning to flip, and they get there and immediately this family shows up at their door and is like, hey, we used to live in this house, or the father of the family is like, I grew up in this house and we're in town. I just really want to show my like 6 kids, they have like so many kids with them, what the inside looks like. Can we come in? And the girl who owns the house, her partner is not there. She like went off to the store that day, and she's like, should I let him in? She's like such a people pleaser, and she decides to let this family into her house. And she has a thought in the back of her head that like they're never going to leave. And that alone, like that gives me goosebumps, like chills. When I first started this, I was so creeped out. It was so good and so strong. It's not even, I don't know that I would necessarily call it thriller as much as it is like horror. There's definite like horror elements that were so scary. Like I have visual images in my head that like I will never get out from this book because it was just so scary. This is the problem. I didn't know going into it that this book was based on a Reddit thread from r/nosleep. And if you're not familiar with r/nosleep, it's very fun to read and like get a little spooked out, like it says, like when you're in bed, like looking to just find a fun, dumb story. As far as like reading a book that needs to, like a book structure needs to have like conclusion and like plot devices, this is a book that would be also like a very solid movie. I think it would work as a movie, like all of the things that you are like noticing problems in the book, I don't think would be as obvious or as stark in a movie. And I think it would be a really effective, like, whoa, good movie. So I hope it does get adapted. But that being said, and I hate to like spoil, I don't necessarily think it's spoiling though, and you should read it if you're curious, but it just didn't wrap well. It didn't have a good ending. It's like, you have all these great ideas, but then clearly I don't think there was a good way to wrap, which for a Reddit thread, that's great. Like you don't need to have it, it can continue forever. You don't ever need to figure things out. You can like go down as many rabbit holes as you want to go down. But for a book, that doesn't really work, you know? But there were like a lot of cool elements. I definitely was like intrigued. So for that reason, I gave it a 3-star. If it had worked out and had like a solid ending, it definitely would have been a 4. I thoroughly enjoyed my time reading it the whole time. I was so interested. I wanted to dive back in, and I was reading it really fast because of how intrigued I was and creeped out and on the edge of my seat. Like if it doesn't have a solid place to land, it's just not a solid read, unfortunately. And like I said, it was my book club pick and it was my choice that I chose. And everybody completely dogged on me and shit all over the book. So that sucked. It was still fun. I still like, I don't know, if you're into that, if you want something like mind-bendy and twisty, it's really good for that. Like I still am like trying to figure out what was supposed to happen. But the thing that sucks is like, I like a book like that where you're like, what was going on and like what actually was happening when there's an answer to be found. I don't feel like this book though actually has an answer. I don't think the author himself had many answers. Okay, and then I read Wild Card by Elsie Silver. This is like a fun one, getting into something lighter. This is the 4th book in her Rose Hill series. This Rose Hill series that she has, it has highs and lows. I feel like it's literally every other book that I have enjoyed in the series so far. They are all single dads. That's like the trope, is every single guy in it, every single love interest is a single dad. And in her Chestnut Springs series, her single dads, or like the dad stories, I think did the best. So that was why she used that to make this series. The problem is, and this is a whole tangent about the series, it's not even about this book specifically yet. It's really hard to make a single dad trope work. There needs to be very specific circumstances where you can even like wrap your head around something like that. And this one, Wild Card, was definitely like a big swing, but I think it was the best payoff because it's a single dad romance and there's also an age gap. I want to say it's like 12 years or something. The fun part is this girl in the book actually also dates his son. That's not a spoiler. Like, you learn that in the other books before you read this one. Like, they like talk about, they tee up these next characters with that knowledge, so you know that going into it. That just makes for a very fun dynamic. The other thing that was fun is she is this like hippie yoga teacher, like free-spirited girl. He's this very like regimented, like does the same thing every day, lives in the same small town type of guy. So it's just like that classic, like you just want to see him get in touch with his like inner child and like his soul searching, and just be like down to have a really fun time and be young again and be free. And then she also is so desperately needing a home base and to be grounded somewhere. So it's this perfect dynamic. I loved it so much. I gave this one 4 stars. It was definitely a 4-star. I got through it easily. It made me smile a lot. It was very sweet. It was very touching. It got the job done. It was so cute. Then I read Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. Ever heard of it? Ever heard of her? I obviously read this because of the movie that just came out. I'd wanted to read the book forever now. Like, I'm getting more into classics as I get older. And like this year specifically, I've really been getting into reading more classics. I was really excited to pick it up. I didn't really know much, honestly, about Frankenstein going in. I've never seen any of the adaptations. I know really nothing other than just like, well, like everybody knows about Frankenstein, but you know what I mean? Like, I just had like a base knowledge of what things happen in it. I have a whole TikTok ranting about this as well, but my copy was like one of those special edition classics from Barnes & Noble. Completely obsessed with those, by the way, because learning about the authors that wrote the classics makes you appreciate them so much more. I think back to when I was in high school and we'd be reading things and I'm like, this is stupid, like this is lame, that was 200 years ago. And now I'm an adult and I fully appreciate, like, I wish I could be sat in my high school classes again, like learning about these classics, because I just can appreciate them so much more now that my brain is fully functioning. The book had Mary Wollstonecraft's like full history at the beginning of it. And I think with the movie coming out, a lot of people have been diving into this as well. And her life was just so interesting. Like, I'm so interested in her as a person and just like how she grew up, all of the parallels between her and Frankenstein, both the monster and Victor, which obviously, like, that's the whole point, right? We're all supposed to identify with both of them in some capacity. I just found it so interesting. And it's funny because I was fully enthralled with like the whole beginning part, which the book honestly looked huge, but Frankenstein, the story itself, is only like 250 pages. A lot of my book was actually like, I literally think it was like 50-50, like her life and her story of Frankenstein. And the funny thing was, I actually felt like, because her life was so crazy, tumultuous, so many things happening, the story of Frankenstein fell flat for me, because I was like, she should have just wrote, like, I just want to read a book about Mary Shelley's life. Like, this is so crazy. It just made me, there's so many things about Frankenstein. The fact that Frankenstein was written by a woman, the fact that Frankenstein was the first really like sci-fi of its time. It was not something that was being done at all. And also the religious aspects in Frankenstein are so fascinating, because I think it's always had this religious undertone. And Guillermo del Toro definitely was picking up on that. He is the most religious guy in the world. But the interesting thing about it is that Mary Shelley is, or was, an atheist, very staunchly so. And the reason for Frankenstein even coming to be is because she was trying to write a ghost story, and ghosts to her were not real. So she kind of like made her own version of, like, it's like a man-made ghost. It's a man-made horror, you know what I mean? It was just, it's so interesting. There's so much to dive into. I just seriously loved it. I loved everything about it. And I did like the story of Frankenstein, even though I say it felt flat. I think what I just was expecting was just a lot more. It's really short and really concise. And in that, it can kind of lack depth. I think you have to like really read between the lines and decide a lot of things for yourself, which is very interesting. Like, I love a read like that. I really do. I loved the movie. I think the movie did a great job. I've seen a lot of people tear it apart because they don't think it's true to the book, and they have an issue with the direction that the movie took versus the one that the book took. And I don't think any of this is spoilers, because you probably have a Netflix account you can watch the movie on, and this book's been out for 200 years. Specifically, what I think people took like fault with is that the point of the monster is that he is Victor's own demise, and Victor was his own demise. The monster, if you are unfamiliar, destroys, in the book, he destroys everything in Victor's path and like ruins him and basically leaves him with nothing. But honestly, Victor was so emotionally inept. He neglected everyone in his life and all the people around him, and was so selfish and like prideful that he was doing it to himself. And then this monster that he created ends up ruining everything for him, everything that he was already on his path to ruin. And he can kind of like place blame on him, but then at the same time, it's like the monster is the extension of him. So, you know what I mean? Like that's kind of the angle that the book has, which is very strong. And I think that like makes a very good point. But I do think the movie, that doesn't make for a good movie. Like that's not a movie that I want to watch, but it was a really good movie in that like the monster was not destructive. The monster was like the good in him if he could nurture it. The monster had the full capacity to love and be good, even up till the very end. Because in the book, there's like a little window where like he could be good. I'm getting really in the weeds here. I gave it 4 stars. The book I gave 4 stars. The book I think lacks a lot of like substance and a lot of things, but the movie I actually gave 5 stars on Letterboxd. I think it was a perfect movie. So I like all of the changes that were made. I'm also very, very partial and to Jacob Elordi, and I'm very biased. So that could definitely play into it. Like, I'm not gonna lie. What a pivot, wow. And then, this is the only book that I have right now because everything else is packed up. I read The Mountain and the Sea by Nayler. This was another book club pick. My friend picked it this time though. Look at how cool this book is also. Like I love, oh, there's nothing on the top. I love when books do this. Like this is like my favorite thing. And I just think this cover is so cool. The contrast is amazing. Like it's such a cool cover and really just like draws you in. You're like, what is that about? So I'll tell you, it's sci-fi. It is about octopus and AI in China. It takes place in the future and it is the scientists who found this island that have octopus surrounding it, and these octopus are highly intelligent and they are finding that like they have culture and language and have like evolved. And so they send this scientist out to go and study these octopus. And the scientist is on this island that's very isolated. It's extremely isolated from anyone else. On this island, the only 2 companions that she has are robots. There's also 3 storylines in this book. So that's one of them, the scientist who is there with the robots. There's also this German hacker. He's more of like the AI side of everything. Like you see his story and he's a very interesting guy with like a very messed up view of like everything. But he works like he's the AI, he's how the AI ties in. I don't want to like give away too much because it's a really good book. And then the third one is this man who is a slave working on a fishing vessel in the sea. And the fishing vessel is ran and operated by AI as well. Such a like dense, good read about life, about like technology, about the future. The funny thing was I was pretty fresh off of Frankenstein when I read this. And so all I could do was just connect Frankenstein to this. Like I was making all of those connections, and they actually do reference Frankenstein in the book, which I appreciated because I was like, this is exactly what I was thinking of. It's kind of like the whole like, I don't know, it's like the fear that everyone has with AI that it's like, okay, it will, if we make this thing, it will get too advanced and destroy us. But then it's also like, what if we make this thing that's so advanced that it like has all-encompassing empathy and ability to create and an ability to build. It was a very interesting thing. There was so many things to be explored and to be had here. I feel like it's hard to even put my thoughts into like a concise, like I can't. I gave it 4 stars. It was definitely, like I could see this being a 5-star in people's like favorite book of all time, like flawless read, completely perfect. The only thing for me was, there was just a few little tweaks that I would make, and I won't even say because I don't want to spoil, but there was just a few things that I did feel like could be stronger. But overall, like very solid book. I loved reading it. It's definitely going to be a good one that we talk about for our book club. I'm so excited. We're hosting that this Friday. So I'm really excited to talk about it with my friends and see what they thought. This is one of those books too, where my friends are listening to it. They're all doing the audiobook. Well, I think one of them might be reading it, but this is a book that is definitely one that you want to have your eyes on. You want to be reading this book, trust me. Also, it's so good. Like, I'm so glad I have it. I wanted to highlight it. I don't know, I'm so funny about annotating. I really should just start annotating my books though. But there was just so many good quotes and so many good things that I like seriously was just like so moved by. And also octopus are just so mystifying. Like if you're someone who's into all of that kind of stuff, like definitely look into it. If you're someone who is big on octopus, y'all big on octopus? That was everything that I read this fall. And then this is my current read. Like I said, I'm on the last book of the Devil's Night series. So getting through Nightfall slowly but surely. I started the Devil's Night series in September thinking I would be done by Halloween. And it's gonna be Christmas and I'm gonna still be reading the Devil's Night series. Maybe I will read the last novella because it's a Christmas one. That was everything that I read this fall. Thank you guys so much.